Hey class, we're going to jump into our week 13 drawing assignment. Hopefully the third time's the charm. I've recorded this several times, but apparently my microphone wasn't working. So, we're on our first floor plan here, and what we're doing this week is we're drawing a wall section. We've drawn building sections before, these things here. Wall sections are shown at a larger scale to show more detail, and they're only cut through an individual wall. So to place one, we're going to go to the same button that we placed our building sections here on our quick access toolbar. You can also go to view and the section button. We're going to change our type to wall section, and that's actually going to change the way our symbol looks, and it's going to place it in a new area in our project browser. The wall section actually is right here through this window, but I'm going to place the symbol all the way out here. I'm going to hit the gap button and move my line segments just outside of my dimensions so that I don't interfere with my dimensions with my section marker. You can see that the head is not solid like this one, and over here in our sections we have a wall sections area. You can double click on that to open our wall section. I'm going to right click on it as well and rename it right now to wall section. So first I'm going to come down. I'm going to change my scale to that larger scale that I just talked about. Typically all wall sections are 3/4 of an inch equals a foot. I'm also going to change my detail level to medium, and I'm going to zoom in here a little bit. I'm going to adjust my crop region. I'm going to pull my crop region out a little bit, pull it in here, and pull it way down. I'm going to come to my levels. I'm going to select there, and I'm going to use this little blue dot to pull my level just so that my text doesn't interfere with my drawing. And that's going to pull them all out because they're all connected. On this side, I don't need the line to go that far. I just need it to go to just on the other side of my wall. The next thing I'm going to do is a series of visibility graphics sort of things, where this wall here, I don't want to see the concrete hatch on the surface. So I'm going to right click, override graphics in view by category, and I'm going to uncheck the surface pattern visibility. I'm going to come down here and I'm going to select this line, which is, well, hold on, let me get that line. I may have to tab into it. That's my building pad, so I'm going to right click, hide in view element. This footing in the distance, I'm going to right click, hide in view element, and then this line here, which is the void that my pad cuts, hide in view elements. I'm going to come up here to my floor. Now this needs some adjustment here. My grade is too high because I mistakenly gave the wrong numbers, or just didn't think about this too much when I first created this. So we have to adjust this site topography to lower the grade. To do that, we are going to go to our site plan. With our topo surface selected, we are going to go down to our temporary hide isolate button and say isolate, and that's just going to leave us with just the topo surface. We're going to edit that topo surface. If you recall, all of these dots at the edge of the building were at -1 foot 1. We're going to drop them lower to -1 foot 6. Then the next series of dots out, these 4 out here, are 10 feet away from our building, so we need to be 6 inches further, so we're going to be -2 feet. That establishes proper grade against our building that meets code. Finally, we're going to grab these dots, these points out here, and we're just simply going to make that -3 feet. Hit the green check mark, and our site's finished. We can close that view, and you can see that our grade is now at the proper location, giving us plenty of room here. Now, to fix this this slight mess that's going on here, we need to detach our basement wall from the floor. We'll get a warning which we can dismiss. The floor now goes up to here because we got rid of the attachment. So now we can just use the handle and drag the floor down to the bottom, the top of our wall to the bottom of our floor. And you can see that that creates a top offset of -10 3/4 of an inch. Now we have to move this down another 1.5 inches for our sill plate. It's hard to move this exactly 1.5 inches. So what we're going to do is we're going to use this dimension box as a calculator. And we do that by going to the beginning of the line. You can use your home key for that. Press the equal sign. The equal sign indicates to Revit that we are going to be using this as a calculator. And then we're going to say negative at the end of the line 1.5 inches. So we're essentially saying -10 3/4 minus 1.5. Hit apply, and it moves that exactly 1.5 inches lower, and it gives us this number, -1 foot 1/4. So it does the math for us. We don't have to do the math in our heads. We can use it as a calculator. Now, this wall and this floor need to join, so we are going to go to the Modify ribbon and the Join tool. And if we click on this wall and click on this floor, Revit's pretty smart. It understands that the joist comes in to our sheathing, our stud rests on top of our subfloor, and even our finished floor is trimmed back to the stud, and then our gypsum wallboard comes down. We need to do a little bit more adjusting. We're going to come up here to our roof. And if you recall, we placed our roof so that it goes into the core. That was an option when we created it. And we also made it the rafter or truss option. We set that as rafter. Now what that does is it sets the bottom of our structure at the level that it at its base level, and it puts that structure at the interior face of the core, because again that option was extend into core. Now if we change this back to truss, we change this to rafter, you can see that it puts the outside or the bottom of the roof structure at the outside face of the core. So we want a rafter, and you can see that that essentially creates a bird's mouth cut in the rafter, so this rafter has a seat on top of our wall. Now this particular bird's mouth is going to be too deep, so to fix that we just have to change the base offset to 1 1/8. And I'm just using that number because I did some math on this, and this meets code. The bird's mouth can only go into the rafter 1/3 of the width of the rafter itself. That's what meets code. Now at this point, almost all of our three-dimensional work in this drawing is done. You can see the power of Revit. This drawing was created very quickly by just cutting a section, and Revit pretty much fills in most of what we need. The rest of the detail on this drawing is going to be two-dimensional. It's going to be 2D stuff that we draw, if you will, on top of this 3D section. And we're going to do that with our annotate tools. We're going to create detail lines, regions, and components that live on top of this two-dimensionally. However, there's one more thing that we need to do, and that is we need to create a fascia and a soffit, which is an actual 3D item. So to do that, we're going to go to our ceiling plans, and we're going to go to second floor ceiling plan. Oops. Now, what we're looking at is the bottom side of our roof, and we are going to create a soffit just for the area where we're cutting through. So we are going to go to Architecture, the roof, but the down arrow, and we're going to click Roof Soffit. And this works just like a floor or a roof in that we draw an outline of the soffit. We check our type, and it is a generic 4-inch. Now, we want to add a little bit extra to this, so we're going to edit type. We're going to rename, and we're going to call it 2x4 soffit. We're going to edit the structure. We're going to make the structure 3.5 inches. We're going to change the material to softwood lumber. That's not coming up. Why is that not coming up? There it is, softwood lumber. Then we're going to insert a layer. We're going to move it down to the bottom. We're going to call it a finish 1 for its function, and the material by category is fine. We're going to make it a 1/2 inch thick. So basically we have a 2x4 framing of our soffit, and then we have a 1/2 inch thick material that could be plywood, it could be solid wood, it could be whatever it is, it's a 1/2 inch. We're going to hit OK. Hit OK again. Now we draw our soffit using our line tool, and our soffit goes from this point out to the face of our roof down, and it lines up with the face of our wall here again, comes back to the wall and completes. I'm going to hit the green check mark button. Now if I go to an east elevation, you'll see that my soffit was placed at the second floor because its height offset from the level is 0. But I want the bottom of the soffit to be at the bottom of my fascia here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the Align tool, click on the bottom of my fascia, and then the bottom of my soffit. And now my soffit's in the right spot. Now if I go to my wall section, there's my soffit. Now I actually do want to change this. I guess I jumped the gun there. I actually want the bottom of this to align with the bottom of my 2x4. So that's what it should look like. Now we're going to add our fascia to this. So I'm going to go to a 3D view. And if you go to roof fascia, now this has by default a 1x12 fascia. We don't want a 1x12, we want a 1x10. So we're going to edit type. We're going to duplicate. We're going to call this 1x10. And we're going to come down here to the profile and simply select 1x10. Hit OK. And now the way that fascias work is I click on the top of where the fascia aligns. So I want to select the top edge of my roof, and it puts that fascia in. I can click here. I can keep going all the way around. I might as well. Clicking on all the top edges of my roof, and it will just wrap that fascia board all the way around. And you can see that it even trims it at the corners here. And did I miss that one? There we go. So that's our complete fascia, and we're done. Go back to our wall section view, and there's our fascia, and here's our soffit. Now there's a minor problem. We're seeing the fascia in the distance. So what we need to do is we're going to go to our first floor view. We're going to select our section, and you can see that the section goes all the way out here. We're actually going to drag this back so that we don't cut so far. Go back to our wall section, and now that's what we see. We'll pick up here in the next video.